Well, it's time for prophecy lesson number 172. It's April the 15th. It's 2018. And it's 11 o'clock. And just in case somebody missed the first go-round when we talked about the Antichrist, I put together kind of a review session here on him. And so we'll go over that today. We'll review the rapture, which we talked about last time. I got a few signs of the times, a few scriptures of the day, and then we'll talk about the Antichrist. Yes?
First, happy April birthdays. Guy is not here. William, Katie's April. I was April. Gary, and then I say Gary. There's like 5 of us in April. So happy April birthdays.
Judy, yes.
Judy's April. Genesis' mom is April. It was a good month. The good people were all that night, but except for their boys. So August is a big romantic month. So back to school. Because that's when y'all, so that's when they were conceived.
Well, at any rate, moving right along, before the class is over, Gary, open us with a word of prayer.
Father, thank you for this day you've given us, beautiful day outside. Thank you for this insight as to how to run our lives, to be our guide. Thank you for the opportunity to listen to what you in store for us on the Antichrist. Thank you for bringing Carl back to us. Thank you for being here. Be with our families, keep us safe. We love you.
Amen. Amen. You know, I was just thinking last week, before I had this episode, I have an irregular heartbeat. And it had gotten a lot worse here in the recent years. I don't know if it was because of the oncoming heart attack or not, or what it was, but I remember one time at night, because this is usually when it affects me, I can't sleep, and my heart is skipping beats, and it's so pronounced that you can't sleep. So I'd have to sit up in the chair, and I thought, well, God, if you would, I wish you would fix this heartbeat, because it is really annoying. Well, guess what? He fixed it.
Hard way.
But if I'd only known what the cure had a certain consequence that went along with it. So be careful what you pray for, you'll probably get it. Okay, moving right along. The rapture. It's the name of a scriptural event where the church is removed from the earth, literally rescued from the danger of destruction. It is a legitimate scriptural teaching. The problem is most people don't spend 15 minutes studying prophecy to figure out that it has a place in the prophetic unfolding, and that it is literally a rescue from the danger of destruction. And that destruction is coming with the tribulation period, which is the time in which the earth is cleansed of all iniquity, prior to the advent of the Messiah, who will rule and reign for 1,000 years. And the word rapture is an adulteration of the Latin word rapio. And our words raptor and rapid come from that word. And so who knows who over time adulterated rapio to rapture. And that's where we get the word. So just because the word doesn't appear in the English Bible, it is there in the Latin Vulgate. The event occurs at the sounding of the last trumpet. The Bible doesn't make a big distinction about the first trump, the last trump, or the great trump. In order to understand the distinction between the two, you have to know something about Judaism. And why is that? Because what value is the Jew? What benefit is the circumcision? Much in every way, primarily because they were given the oracles of God. You want to know something about the oracles of God, you got to talk to and understand the oracle people. And they have been given things that are not in the 66 books. And some of the things they have are purely wrong, no question about it. But hey, we have commentators on Christian books, right? Are they always right? No. But I would tell you that if you want to know details about something in the scripture, it's good to check out and see what the Jewish rabbis had to say about it, because many times they'll be right. The rapture is not an unknowable event. This has been a confusion for years. When people have read Matthew 24:36, and of that day and that hour knoweth no man, well, the assumption always was that it must have been the rapture, because it talks about Jesus descending, angels gathering, trumpets blowing. Got to be the rapture, right? Well, no, because it's the wrong trumpet. It's the great trump. And we know from Isaiah chapter 27, the last verse of that chapter, that the great trump is blown at the gathering of the elect back to Jerusalem. So there is more than one rapture involved in this event. And it occurs at the blowing of the great trump, which occurs on Yom Kippur at the closing of the gate ceremony. So the great trump, the last trump, two different trumps, two different events. And even the great trump in Matthew 24, which says nobody knows the day nor the hour, and as you have heard me say, there are 5 words in the Greek for knowing. The 2 that are relevant here is the word that's used, which is oida. And oida is a knowing based on intuition or obvious perception. So, had that passage used the Greek word gnosko, then you could argue that it is unknowable, because gnosko, knowing, is a knowing based on research and study. So it opens the door for the possibility of the knowing, because it used a knowing based on intuition. It didn't say you can't know it by research and study. It just says you can't intuitively know it. So, well, there. Explosions rock Syrian capital as Trump announced strikes. Loud explosions rock Syria's capital and filled the sky with heavy smoke as the U.S. President Donald Trump announced airstrikes in retaliation for chemical use by Assad, who is a crazy guy. And the interesting thing is, they were showing Assad's air defenses shooting down our missiles. And it showed them going up there about 2,000 feet in the air and blowing them out of the sky. Guess what? Cruise missiles come in at 50 feet. You can't even see them until they're right on top of you. How is his air defense even going to pick them up? And not only that, they're halfway stealthy. And some of them are completely stealthy. You can't see them until they're on top of you, and then it's too late.
Trump said they're shiny, new, and smart.
They're smart. They're very smart. Well,
Joyce said it's called fake news.
fake news, yeah. See, it's, even the Syrians know how to use fake news. Coming a day, according to Isaiah chapter 17, that an oracle concerning Damascus. Behold, Damascus will cease to be a city and become a heap of ruins. That is in the very near future. I suspect that Israel is going to nuke them at some point. But however it occurs, the prophecy is Damascus, the oldest city on planet Earth, will soon not be a city at all. And Assad is working his way there very quickly. The Lord's anointed. In Isaiah it says, thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have held, to subdue nations before him, to loose the armor of kings, to open before him the double doors, so that the gates will not be shut. I go before you and make the crooked places straight, and I will break in pieces the gates of bronze and cut the bars of iron. There are those who would argue that Donald Trump is an anointed one for a particular purpose. If he is an anointed one like Cyrus, guess what? Does his sexual improprieties cause him to lose his anointing?
Didn't affect
And for
David.
David,
Gee, what was David? Premeditated murderer. I'd say that's probably worse than someone who has questionable sexual activities.
Alleged.
Alleged, and we don't even know that for sure. And so, and the next obvious question is, those who come against him. If he is truly an anointed one of the Lord, what will happen to these people against him? And David said to Abishai, destroy him not, for who can stretch forth his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? Again, but Abishai son of Zeruiah answered and said, shall not Shimei, whatever that word is, yeah, him too, be put to death for this because he cursed the Lord's anointed? Do we have people cursing the Lord's anointed today? Well, what would happen to them? Well, behold, he travails with iniquity, who has conceived mischief and brought forth falsehood. It's not like anybody we know. He made a pit and dug it and is fallen into the ditch which he made. Well, they made a ditch. They said the ditch was collusion with the Russians. Oh, but they colluded. And then they said he can't win because someone else is going to win instead. Well, they made a ditch in case that he did win, they were going to get him. Well, they didn't get him. Well, he sexually exploited people. He must resign. What happened to them? Well, talk to Al Franken. What happened to old Al? He had to resign. And I don't know how many other Democrats, and maybe a Republican or two, had to resign. That came against him in their own ditch they fell in. The heathen are sunk down into the pit that they made. In the net in which they hid is their own foot taken. The Lord is known by the judgment which he executes. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Well, we got a lot of wicked out there, and they are being snared in the work of their own hands. And watch, if this be true, and if Trump truly is an anointed one, which appears to me like he is, everything that they throw at him is going to come back and get him. It's just amazing to sit back and watch. So don't worry that the Democrats are going to impeach Trump. If they do, it won't be until he has accomplished his divinely appointed task. So, just some things.
Haman should be up there too.
What?
Haman should be up there also.
Yeah, it could be. Okay. The Antichrist. Revealed. Why do I care? Why does anybody care? Well, most people don't care. Well, think back in time. Who has people said that the Antichrist is? Henry Kissinger. He's the Antichrist. Remember him? Oh, who else is the Antichrist? Well, Stalin's the Antichrist. Hitler's the Antichrist. Well, we got substantive evidence here. He must be the Antichrist. He killed all these Jews. But the problem with all of these people who have alleged to be the Antichrist is the people who are doing the alleging don't know anything about the Bible. What does the Bible say? I mean, if the Bible doesn't point this guy as being the Antichrist, how can you claim that he is? And if you do know, so what? Well, the one reason is the Antichrist only appears at the end of the age. And if he appears at the end of the age, we know the age is about to end, right? We haven't got a long time. And particularly, well, if the Antichrist shows up and he's very old to start off with, then the end of the age has got to be very, very soon, right? And if the Antichrist is identified, then many other Bible prophecies should be occurring right at the same time. And the Antichrist ushers in the tribulation. So the rapture of the church can't be very far away, can it? So there is an interest, at least if you are a student of Bible prophecy, knowing who this guy is, what to look for, and if we see him on the horizon or right amongst us, we should take hope. Looking for the blessed hope and the glorious appearing of our great God and Savior Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us that he might redeem us from every lawless deed and purify for himself his own special people, zealous for good works. Now, first off, it is a blessed hope. The blessed hope is we get out of here, we bypass death, we do not go past go, we do not collect $200, we go straight to heaven. I like that idea. And the other thing I like about this passage is that he is going to redeem us from every lawless deed. Anybody here got any lawless deeds? Anybody got any good deeds? Well, I'm glad I'm not here at Yom Kippur, where the scales are being weighed, and your lawless deeds and your lawful deeds are all weighed in the balance. I don't think I can make the scales tip in the right direction. So fortunately, for those of us who believe that there is a God, and that he sent his son, and his son is named Jesus, and he died in our place, so that we don't have to, why, there's good news. The good news, the blessed hope. Quick. Qualifications to be an Antichrist. If you want to be an Antichrist, you got to be a national leader in the Seleucid region of Alexander the Great's kingdom. The one of the four kingdoms that were broken up by the demise of Alexander the Great. And the Seleucid kingdom, we know, is the king of the north, as it's called in Daniel. And so it's this region here in yellow on the map. Notice the little word on the right portion of the yellow is Iran. Iran is a candidate, right? How do we know that? Well, because there shall rise in his place one who imposes taxes on the glorious kingdom. Within a few days he will be destroyed, but not in anger or in battle. Who is that in Daniel chapter 11? Oh, that was Seleucus IV Philopator. He was the king of the north, the king of the northern kingdom, as mentioned in the prophecies of Daniel. And it says in verse 21, in his place shall arise a vile person, to whom they will not give the honor of royalty, but he shall come in peaceably and seize the kingdom by intrigue. Aha! He's got to be in the Seleucid portion of Alexander the Great's kingdom, and he's got to come in peaceably, and he's got to seize the kingdom through some mischievous method. Got to take the kingdom peaceably. And in his place shall arise the vile person, and he comes in peaceably. To see verse 2. He must be strong with a small group. In Daniel 11:23, it says, after the league is made, that's a league with the many, is made with him, he shall act deceitfully, for he shall come up and become strong with a small group of people. So now we got another qualification. He's not instantly a national leader, but his strength lies within a small group of people. Interesting point. And he must plunder the richest parts of his country, whoever he is. In Daniel 11:24 it says, he shall enter peaceably even into the richest places of the province, and he shall do what his fathers have not done, nor his forefathers, and he shall disperse among them plunder, spoil, and riches, and he shall devise his plans against strongholds, but only for a time. So we got another qualification. Whatever he comes up onto the scene, by peace he will plunder the city.
That sounds like socialism.
What's that?
That sounds like socialism. He's gonna, y'all have been distributed, and it says gonna distribute it.
We shall see. We shall see. I'll offer my solution to that as we go along here. Okay, he must confirm an agreement with many for 1 week. That 1 week in Daniel is a Shabuah, and it doesn't say what the week is. It just says a 7. It's a 7. Most everybody agrees it's a year period. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, but in the midst of the week he shall bring an end to the sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abomination shall one who makes desolate, even unto the consummation which is determined, is poured out on the desolate. He's got to make a covenant with many. If you read commentators on this, they will say, "Oh, the many that's Israel, the many of Israel." Oh, no, it doesn't say the many of Israel. It just says the many. It leaves it open. It's the many of something, but it didn't define who the many. Okay, and whoever this joker is, He must be wounded on the right side and arm withered. He's got a withered arm, wounded on the right side. And that from what? We know that from Zechariah. Woe to the idol, false god, shepherd. That means he's a religious leader of a false religious system that leaves or abandons the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye. Literally in the Hebrew, it says the right side eye, implying that it's the right arm that's going to be withered. And his arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. The utterly darkened in the Hebrew, there is more than one meaning for that word. It can mean dimmed by virtue of age and be equally correct. So now, we got all of these, we got 6 here, wounded on the right side, must be a religious leader of a false god. Right eye must be blinded or dimmed by virtue of age, and he must destroy many during, because we know in Daniel 8:25, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace he will destroy many. And he shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand, without human agency. Okay, now we got all those 6. Well, he must come out of the Medo-Persian Empire. Well, now we're narrowing it down. We have the Seleucid first. Now it's got to be either a Mede or a Persian. How do we know that? From Revelation 13. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads blasphemous names. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, his feet were like a bear, and his mouth was like the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power, his throne, and his great authority. Feet like a bear. That's where he stands. What was the symbolism of the bear in Daniel? Well, the bear was a symbol of, remember, it had 3 ribs in its mouth, and it stood up. One side was higher than the other, and it was a symbol of the Medo-Persian Empire. And so the bear, standing, his feet were like the bear. That tells you where he's standing. He's in the Medo-Persian Empire, so he's either a Mede or he's a Persian. Where did Iran come from? It's ancient Persia. So now we know quite a bit now about this guy. We got all these 6 items, and he's got to be a religious leader. He's got to be blinded. He's got to come out of the Medo-Persian Empire, and he must have been fatally wounded, and his wound healed, and he returned to life. Now we're getting pretty specific. Kissinger has never been wounded and came back to life. Now I saw one of his heads, this is in Revelation 13, as if it had been mortally wounded, and its deadly wound was healed, and all the world marveled at the beast. One of his heads, that's one of the heads of this final 10-toed nation. And what? The guy was dead and he came back to life. That narrows the field. Okay, right along. He must come in the name of Allah. Now there's an interesting one. It's down pretty good. Here's wisdom in Revelation 13:18. Here's wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, we're getting into an issue where you got to interpret something. We're in Greek now, we're not in Hebrew, but there is a way of interpreting this, as you know. Walid Shobat. Notice that the character set, which you can see right here, and the Codex Sinaiticus is not Greek, although there are Greek characters that appear to be there. He saw them as Arabic characters. And the Arabic characters that he saw reads Bismillah. And Bismillah means in the name of Allah. So you can rewrite Revelation 13:18 to read as follows. Here is wisdom, let him who has understanding calculate the multitude of beasts, for it is the multitude of a man, and his multitude is in the name of Allah. Ooh. Can you read that? You can't read Arabic? I can't either. I can't even read English. So we got 12 items here. There are more, but these are 12 that jump out at me. Maybe if you have more, we can throw them in here. But these are 12 items that whoever this guy is, he must fulfill all 12 of them. If he doesn't, if he misses just one, he's not a candidate. I think, can we all agree on that? I mean, it's in the Bible. I know, I read it. Daniel chapter 7. There's one more thing. The 10 horns are 10 kings who shall arise from this kingdom, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be different from the first ones, and shall subdue 3 kings. Different. How is he different? Well, we got to find some way that makes this guy different from all of his predecessors. So if we can do that, then whoever this guy is, he's still a. So add one more different from those before. Let's look at the life and times of Ali Khamenei. Here's my candidate for your consideration. Oh, by the way, did you see his right arm? Withered. Not interesting. In 1981, after the assassination of Mohammed Raji, Khamenei was elected president of Iran by a landslide vote of 97% in the Iranian presidential election. Have you ever had to vote? 97%. What does that tell you? Something fishy was going on, right? Maybe subterfuge? Intrigue. Yeah, something was going on. So in October of 1981, in which only 4 candidates were approved by the Council of Guardians of the Galaxy, Khomeini became the first cleric to serve the office. Ooh, he's different from all the rest, isn't he? He's a cleric. He came in by intrigue, by subterfuge. And on June 27, June 1981, while Khomeini had returned from the front line, he went to Abuzar Mosque. That's a good name for a mosque. Bushehr. According to his Saturday schedule, after the first prayer, he began to give a lecture to worshipers who had written their questions on paper. Meanwhile, a tape recorder accompanying with the papers was put on the desk in front of Khomeini by a young man who pressed the button. After a minute, the loudspeaker's sound became like a whistle, and suddenly the tape recorder exploded. Uh-oh, you gotta get one of those bad tape recorders, you know. Be careful, those recorders will explode, particularly when you got a pound of C4 in them. A gift from the Furqan group to the Islamic Republic, it was written on the inner wall of the tape recorder. So before a medical team could reach Khomeini, he bled out. He had no vital signs. He was clinically dead. He was taken to the nearest hospital where he received many transfusions and they got his heart restarted. And he recalled that during this time he was suspended between heaven and earth. He didn't see Jesus. He didn't see heaven. He was just suspended. Very interesting. Dead, fatally wounded, but back to life. Ayatollah Khomeini's treatment took several months, and his arm, vocal cords, and lungs were seriously injured. He was permanently injured, losing the use of his right arm. Very interesting. In his presidential inaugural address, Khomeini vowed to eliminate deviation, liberalism, and American-influenced leftists. I'll vote for him. According to the Iran Chamber, vigorous opposition to the government, including nonviolent and violent protests, assassinations, guerrilla activity, and insurrections, was answered by the state repression and terror in the early 1980s. both before and during Khomeini's presidency. Thousands of rank and file members of insurgent groups were killed, often by the revolutionary courts. We didn't hear that much here. By peace, he will destroy many. Writing in the Telegraph, Damon McElroy and Ahmad Vadat observed, the Ayatollah likes to cultivate an image of austerity, but receives major commissions from the Iranian oil and arms industries, and there have been regular claims that he and his son have amassed a fortune running into the billions of dollars. A 6-month investigation by Reuters has said that Khomeini controls a financial empire worth $95 billion. Wow. He'd be a good Democrat. Khomeini uses the assets of a company called the Headquarters for Executing the Order of Imam, or CTAD, in Farsi, in order to increase his grip on. Reuters found no evidence that Khomeini is tapping CTAD to enrich himself, but he did find that he uses CTAD's funds for political expedience. In a 6-month investigation by Reuters into that, regarding the sources of CTAD's funds, CTAD has built its empire on the systematic seizure of thousands of properties belonging to ordinary Iranians. Members of religious minorities like Vahhabi, who is Baha'i, as well as Shiite Muslims, business people, and Iranians living abroad. He goes through and rips them off. The stories I've heard is, guy will go to bed at night, and here come the Al-Quds. That's the group that he controls. They come and say, you have 5 minutes to get out of your house or we'll kill you. They take his house, they take his bank account, they kick him out of the country, if you're lucky. The Quds Force, a special forces unit of Iranians, Revolutionary Guard, is responsible for the extraterritorial operations. The Quds Force reports directly to the Supreme Leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. Its commander is Major General Qasem Soleimani, and his deputy was Hossein Hamadani. While little is reliable known about the force as of 2007, its size was estimated at 15,000 troops, a small group. The United States has designated the Quds Force a supporter of terrorism since 2000. Now, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, known commonly as the Iran Deal or the Iran Nuclear Deal, is an international agreement on nuclear program of Iran reached in Vienna on 14 July 2015 between Iran and the P5+1, the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, China, France, Russia, United Kingdom, and United States, plus Germany, and the European Union. In July 2015, Iran and the P5+1 confirmed an agreement on the plan along with the roadmap agreement made between Iran and the IAEA. The State Department says Iran never signed it. The nuclear deal, and it's not legally binding, as it tells Congress to butt out of Obama's political commitments. Well, Obama made the commitment, Obama didn't even sign it. The State Department made the disclosures in a letter to Kansas Congressman Mike Pompeo, a Republican, who had written the department to inquire why the agreement has submitted to Congress in July did not bear the signature of Iranian President Hossein Rouhani. Congress took a series of votes in September on the deal, but never formally approved it. We've got a deal out here that neither side has signed, and yet we're acting as though it's a real agreement. Anything wrong with this picture? Okay. He must be a national leader in the Seleucid region of Alexander the Great. Does it work? Works for me. Must take the kingdom peaceably. He got it by an election. By subterfuge. Must be strong with a small group. Al-Quds, 15,000. That's a small group. Must plunder the richest parts of his country. Ample evidence of that. Must confirm an agreement with many for 1 week. He ain't confirmed nothing yet. What does that tell you? The 7-week period hasn't started yet. In May, that thing is going to lapse because Trump isn't going to sign it. So now we got from May to September for pressure to build to sign something. watch in the near future if we don't see the elements of this starting to come together for a signature, like say the 10th of Tishrei, September. Must be a religious leader of a false god. Gee, that's pretty clear to me. I mean, he's an imam, for heaven's sake. Right eye must be blinded or dimmed by virtue of age. Certainly dimmed by virtue of age, and probably is damaged with that pound of C4 going off right next to him. Must destroy many during peace. We already know he's destroying and continues to destroy. Must come in the Medo-Persian Empire. Well, Iran can't get any more Persian than that. Must have been fatally wounded and his wound healed and returned to life. Hey. Must come in the name of Allah. He's in the name of Allah. Must be different kind of kingdom than those before. It's a religious kingdom now. A mixture of state and religion. Ooh, how gross can you get? 12 items. He meets every last one. He's my candidate. You got a better one? Let's put him to the test, see how he matches up on these 12 points. And if he don't make every last one of them, he's not a candidate any longer. So, can the rapture then be far away? If this guy truly is the Antichrist and he meets all the qualifications in my book, the rapture can't be far away. I've been wrong at least twice on when the rapture's coming. I'll probably be wrong again, but all I can say, the tree is still growing.
You know, I think there's a prophecy in the Quran about the end of the world, about coming of 12 Imam.
Yeah, the 12
Imam. Come and restore the order and judge all the infidels and everything. But before that, there's supposed to be a prophet that paves the way for the 12 Imam. So, and
Yeah.
he's supposed to be a tall, black Western leader.
And this Khamenei, he claims to be that prophet.
Oh, does he?
And a lot of Shiites, Sunnis, I believe, don't like it.
Oh, really?
Because Sunnis believe it's supposed to come from them, and Shiites believe it's supposed to come from them. But Khamenei claims that he's that anointed prophet that's supposed to prepare the way for 12 Imams, for end of the world.
Oh, very interesting. Well, like I say, there are all kinds of evidence in my belief system that points to our age as the end of the age, where we are right now. This is one more piece of evidence in that, well, what I consider to be a vast quantity of evidence that we're at the end of the age. If you look at what the Jews taught about time, we're at the end of the age. If you look at prophecies of the popes, we're at the end of the age, right? Because the 112th pope is currently reigning. He is supposed to be the last one.
Well, and this pope is really.
This pope is a real wacko.
I mean, corrupt pope. He is.
When you say corrupt pope, you repeat yourself.
Well, it also, so there are some people saying that the rapture's going to happen on the 23rd of this month.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Of the stars.
When is the 23rd?
I saw that. I didn't read the details as to why the guy thought that, but I'm all for it.
Yeah, me too.
It's the only thing I can say is the evidence.
The
evidence that we've looked at doesn't point to
all
it.
of the Virgo is in alignment, all the.
Yeah. Because this week is solar flares. It's solar flares.
But yeah, the one thing that we can look at, kind of test the waters as we go on, is this agreement with Nomini, because it's going to lapse in May. But of course, it was never there in the first place. It's signed by neither side. They've just kind of concluded that it must be all right. It must be an agreement because it exists in paper with no signature on it. Now, you talk about what a way to run a railroad, man. So here you got and the Iranians, by the way, were supposed to, in good faith, not test their missile system. And they've been testing it every day since this thing, I mean, nothing has changed. And I'll guarantee you, somewhere underground in Iran, they are enriching uranium to over 93% to make it weapons grade uranium. And so nothing has really changed. We've just given them an out, as best I can see it. And so, but,
And a bunch of cash.
yeah,
I was just thinking about that. Can Trump get back all those millions that Obama gave?
Billions.
billions.
Yes, I think that's in the.
I don't know how many billion we gave them in cash. And you know, that money went to support Hezbollah and others killing Israelis and Americans. Who would in the world do that? He sure did.
I heard a commentator this week say that the deal was front-end loaded with all that cash, so we couldn't get out of it. We could use the argument, well, we've already given them the money, we need to stay in the agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
That's just ridiculous. How many people that would say that don't want somebody to contest their prenuptial agreement? You know, there's people all over Hollywood that, oh, they want it nice and tight and firm. They wouldn't accept the same terms if it was a prenuptial, you know? Well, I've already paid her some, so let me just keep paying her some.
We have to agree to it so that we can find out what's in the agreement. There's perfect logic for you. So at any rate, that is the
Scraping
end.
the surface of how evil Obama is. Why aren't people catching on?
They're blinded. Half of this country's deceived. They believe that Islam is really a good religion. You know, it's no different from Christianity.
It's all about tolerance.
And so consequently, we should accept them, and they're just being a persecuted minority. Persecuted my foot. They're killing people left and right, and they, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. They're evil. And many who know Islam really well believe it is the religion of Satan himself, because Satan demands that you give your sons to die for him, whereas Christianity, God gave his son to die for you. And so it's just Christianity turned on its head.
It's Satan taking what God has set up and then him mimicking it and twisting it into his own purposes. So that alone, I mean, regardless of what they believe, anything that you take away from who Jesus is, it is a religion of Satan.
It is a religion of the Antichrist. By the way, that word Antichrist can also mean Antichrist, meaning in place of Christ. And so what we have in place of Christ, we have Islam. And there's absolutely no hope in Islam, because the God of Islam is a capricious God. You can't be relied on, and who will lie to you? And they all agree to that. Why would you serve such a God?
Deception.
Yeah, it is. The world is being deceived.
I can think of announcements.